Hi everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Connection. I'm your host, Donna Wilberg. Well, as I promised, we're here with part 2 of our interview with Linda Potter. She's a past life regressionist, and tonight we're going to be talking about alien abduction. So I'm so happy you could join us. Linda, this is something that we don't really talk a lot about on the show, but you and I have talked about it personally. And it is something I think it's time to be talked about. So you have, you're a certified hypnotherapist, and you've done past life regressions on many people.
Right.
What's been your experience with people having these experiences?
You mean people that have had alien experiences?
Yes.
Well, that's a newer aspect to my work. I think to even go before that, with past life regression, when somebody has an issue, your own belief system as a practitioner and the area that you're familiar with and what you know is how you function. When you start to have awareness of areas outside of that, then it opens you up to start looking at particular cases in a different way, if that makes sense. To build a foundation here on that, when I had I was co-hosting a show, and I was asked to research UFOs. Now, as a child, I remember seeing a UFO as a preteen or teenager, 13 maybe, somewhere around that age. And I was on an island in New York. It was an island that the counselors took us to. There were probably 15 or 20 of us kids and a couple of 20-something counselors. And in the middle of the night, I woke up to a very large craft above my head. The girl sleeping next to me saw it as well. And it scared me to the point where I drenched through my PJs. And I remember this very clearly. The next day, well, we fell asleep and don't remember anything else. The next day, we brought it up to the counselors, and everybody was laughing at us. So this girl, Diane was her name, and myself, we never brought it up again.
Okay.
At least I don't know if she did beyond that, but I know I certainly didn't. Why? So I had that in my memory bank. And when I was asked, fast forward to a few years ago, to research UFOs, that memory came back. And I thought, I know what I saw. There's no way it was a plane, and there's no way it was a helicopter. It was quiet. It was spinning. It had lights. It had a hum. It was very different than anything I knew. So in my research, I went on YouTube, that wonderful internet highway that we have that has everything on it. And I'm very discerning. I'm a skeptic, but I'm open to all things. And for 2 days, I researched UFOs. Now, Donna, you know, if you're going to research UFOs, and 80%, as the statistics go, 80% of Americans believe that UFOs exist. But beyond that, they don't know what they are.
Right.
Some do, but you know, they're open to it. If you're going to believe in UFOs, aren't you going to want to know who's piloting them, or at least give energy to who might it be? Is it an off-planet individual or an on-planet? Who knows, right? Well, the research took me down that path. Once I got into the research, it was kind of like having a bite of a really good candy bar. And I started to go to UFO conferences. And the second conference I went to, there were people the likes of Richard Dolan, who is a historian and bent on documenting everything. So he's really good for the intellectual side of myself. And then there were others, the Kim Carlsbergs, who had off-planet experiences, the other extreme. But there was a panel of about 13 people. And most of these people have either had experiences, are familiar with the UFO world, had something to say on the subject matter. And it was so much food for thought. And the interesting thing is, as I sat in that audience, I started to wake up to other experiences. And I was beside myself, realizing that that wasn't a dream. That was the same scenario that they're talking about. That wasn't a dream at all. And we can be screened by them, the aliens, to make us feel like we didn't remember it or that it was a dream. So that was my beginning. It wasn't something I did intentionally to get into, but I know what I experienced. And now I have a place where I can ask questions, other people that have experienced it. It was validation on a level that I wasn't expecting at all. I left that UFO conference almost outside myself, my mind running in every different direction. How do they do it? Why are they doing it? Who are they? They're different races. Why us? And on and on and on. And the more answers you got, the more questions you had.
Yeah. Well, you know, we talked about, in the last episode, we talked about what's imagination and what is an experience, a memory.
Right.
And a lot of times, especially when it comes to alien abductions or UFOs, you have to wonder, what did I see? You know, it seems like it's such a secretive thing in our society.
Oh, yes.
You know, we know they're out there,
yes.
but, you know, Area 51, everything's a secret. You know, nobody wants us to really know what's going on, but yet we're all having these, not all, but we're having these experiences, we're having these memories. And when you do come in contact with information and you sit back and you go, why does that feel so good? Why does that feel so familiar?
Yep.
You know, then you do want to dig a little deeper. So let's talk about more of what your experience was.
Well, with my experience, I wanted to know more about it, and especially after I went to the UFO conferences, I was waking up to this part of myself that had long been hidden. And one of the memories that I had that I found out from Richard Dolan's wife, at the time his wife, was that, well, I went up to her and I said, I had met her early on in the evening, and I said, oh my God, I'm sitting in the audience and now I'm just being told from somebody on the panel that that thing I thought was a dream was actually an abduction. I said, holy moly, but I really didn't say moly.
Really?
And just at that moment, there was Karen standing there, but there was also the alien hunter. Daryl was standing there, who's got the television show now. And I said, I need somebody to give me some answers because I have this mixed emotions of being really pissed off and being angry. Who can rip you out of your bed in the middle of the night? And that was my memory, was I was floating back in through my window. And there were three beings outside my bedroom window. And I could draw a picture of them. I could remember them. And I remember coming awake or being awake during part of this as I'm floating into my bed, and I'm looking at my bed and I'm thinking, how am I floating into my bed? This is impossible. And it was, this is the weirdest dream I've ever had. And then I remember nothing until I sat in that conference. Somebody had the same experience and it woke me up again. Karen had the same experience of those same three entities, but they were in her bedroom doorway. Except she had the tattoo of a pyramid on her wrist, which is a common tattoo that you get when you're abducted. This happens to more people than not. So I started to learn more about that. And then I got to the point where, okay, I need to get to the bottom of this. I'm a hypnotist. I do past life regression. I want somebody who specializes in abduction and knows the world and can weave through any blocks that I might have, because this is the thing. When you're abducted, they put screens in. That's why some people are afraid of clowns for no explainable reason. Interesting. They can be owls. It can be deer. Because this is the last memory that you have when the ET comes up, and it's the typical gray that has the almond-shaped eyes, and they come right up to your eye, and that trance mode that you get put in from them is your last memory, and they will put in whatever they want you to remember. So I drove down to Los Angeles and I met up with Yvonne Smith, who is a hypnotist who specializes in abductions. And I trust her because she's been doing it for a very long time. And we had a conversation, in fact, at Contact in the Desert, that UFO conference we had gone to. And in her regression room, I went and got 2 experiences. One was when I was a kid and the UFO was above me because I couldn't remember going into that craft. The second one was the 3 entities outside my bedroom window and where I went and what happened. So she was able to help me go get that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting experience to go and listen to people talk about. There's so many people talk about their experiences, and the people who are knowledgeable about the abductions and what goes on.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a whole different world when
Yes.
you're
Yes.
exposed to this information. And as you're listening to what they're saying, and you're thinking to yourself, well, that's what happened to me, or that's so similar to the experience that I had. And it talk about a healing experience, because as you go on, you grow up and everything, you have these thoughts in the back of your mind, but you wonder, did it really happen? And you dare not talk about it because people think you're crazy.
Well, and you may not even know that your experience of being completely in fear in your bed, thinking that it was maybe a ghost in the house, it can come that way. It can come as a dream. It can come as a fear that you're walking around with. It can come in many different ways. But when I listened to Yvonne Smith's lecture, and that really helped me to see the value of what she's doing. And she had people coming to her that remember being in their car and they see a bright light, and the next thing they know, they don't remember anything other than they were 4 hours late getting home and they got chewed out for being late, or they were completely freaked out because they don't know where the missing time went. And missing time is a very big aspect of being abducted as well. The stories can vary so greatly in what people experience. Excuse me, and what Kim Carlsberg brought to the table, excuse me, I get excited about this. My voice starts to go, I wonder why, is that the experience she had, which is really out of the box for people, but is happening and has happened for many, many, many years to a lot of us, is having off-planet children. Now, how the heck does that work? People want to know. Well, it does happen, and it happens all the time. And when cloning came in to science, and people said, oh no, or oh yes, and you had different groups going, that's been going on for so long. And when you walk into the world of alien abduction and you start researching, then you start being introduced to what really is happening. And where it's being currently used and how it's being currently used. You're not going to see it on the news you're watching in your living room.
No, not at all.
And why
Yeah.
wouldn't you see that on the TV in your living room? That's the question a person wants to ask. Because it's time, we're all in the soup together. If you or someone else is coming to me and they're saying, oh my God, and this has happened to me a lot with the work that I do before I woke up to the whole alien subject. Somebody in the gym came up to me and said, I don't think you're going to think I'm crazy because of the work you do, but I have to share this with someone, and told me about her abduction experience. And at the time I said, you know what? If you experienced that, then it must exist. Don't think you're crazy. I mean, because of what I experienced with seeing the UFO. I knew that she needed a place to go with that. Now, my understanding is so much wider, and I'm learning all the time. But we need to start waking up to this. Everybody does, because it's happening.
And I must say, there's a variety of aliens or entities or whatever you want to call them. That and people have different experiences. Some of them aren't as bad as what you're saying. They're not as fearful. Some of them may even be, pleasant. Maybe you're getting a download of information or.
But here's the thing about that I've come to the place with. Yes, there are malevolent beings. The reptilians, as a rule, are known to be very malevolent. And I won't go into detail about that. I'm not the expert by far on that subject. And then you have other and other ETs, Nordics, and other ones that at times aren't so bad. But really, anybody that can come into your bedroom and vacuum you out and take you to a ship or off planet and can take eggs and can take sperm and can make a clone of you, why do they want us so badly? Even the nice ones. Who gave them permission? And what are they doing with us?
Yeah.
And what is so special about us that they need us for anything? We've got to start thinking about that. We're sovereign beings. We need to get back to that. And if the Earth was going to hell in a handbasket, as they say, and ships were landing, the last thing I would do is get on board. I don't care how nice they were. I don't care how much candy they had on board. I'm not going. I'm staying with because my energy and our energy is from Earth. And this is where we need to be, in my humble opinion.
Well, I've heard it said that, one of the things that they're lacking that we do have is emotion.
Our creative ability is beyond the scope. And what we have in our DNA and in our makeup is a fractal of the universe. We have so much going on inside of us, and they don't. They're all about technology. Mm-hmm. They're all about technology, and they wow us with that, understandably. But as wowed as we might be by the technology that they bring here, we have that a millionfold. We're just waking up to that. They don't want us to wake up.
Who was it? Tellinger was talking about the different species, the giants, and all the legendary beings that we have that have gone through the decades. There's stories written about them. There's artifacts on buildings and every place else that depict this period of time when we did have these beings, and it makes me wonder, are we a culmination of all these other planetary visitors? So the fact that we are visited, is it because we're related to them?
I think it's pretty well proven in the realm that I research in that there's been that missing link that everybody's looked for is the genetic introduction to the alien species. And I think that's pretty well out there.
Yeah.
But still, they're never going to get what they're trying to get from us. They're just never going to get it. And that brings up a whole nother area of discussion, because when people that might be watching the show right now and they think, well, this is pretty far out, this information has everything to do with the reason the world is in the fix that it is right now. The global, not only within the United States, not only the local stuff that we're going through on a local city level with the bankruptcies and all of this, the manipulation of money, all of this. You have to back way, 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 way up and start asking the question, why? And if somebody can vacuum us out of our houses, can take us off the highway, screen our memory to where we only have a glimpse because for some reason we're able to catch that much, to question and start researching why and who is this doing that. We need to go there. We need to know about that. If you're going to play Monopoly, you need to know the rules of the game.
Right.
Once you have the rules of the game, chances are you're going to take Boardwalk and you're going to be able to stay out of jail. But you've got to know the rules of the game.
But, in all fairness, we as a species, we do the same thing with tracking animals, birds, insects, whatever. We tag them and just so we can keep track of them to make sure that they don't become extinct.
Right.
There's a possibility that that's going on with us as well, from beings higher than ourselves.
Yeah. And the old way of doing it was chipping us and putting implants in, and now they don't need to do it. There's a story about Area 51 that, or a concept of Area 51 that I found quite compelling. Everybody's always all about Area 51 is where the UFO, the big landing or the crash was and all of that. But I've heard it said, and I kind of lean towards this idea, that when the craft landed or crash landed at Area 51, that it was done with intent, that the technology on board that craft that was taken by the military and used by the military was their Trojan horse, so that they could then track us easier. Because once the digital age got out there, they can now be off planet and track us individually.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just keep.
They don't need
More
to
and
do
more.
implants. They don't. Yeah.
No.
Not at all.
They can track us on Facebook.
Indeed.
Well, there's so much out there, and for the viewers, I do want to recommend, do what feels right to you. There's a lot of fear factors out there. There's a lot of information out there that's actually planted, I think, to make us feel afraid to want to know more.
Yeah, I think to be skeptical but stay open. If
Yeah.
it doesn't resonate with you, if it's a book you're reading on the subject, then put it down. Yvonne Smith book Chosen, I personally like, because as a hypnotist, I wanted to, and an abduction experiencer, I wanted to know what other people in the regression room have come up with. She has some very compelling cases that are very extreme, but there's a lot of books, like you said, just be discerning.
Yeah.
And go on the internet.
Oh, YouTube is just
Yeah,
full
but
of,
just, again-
not only lectures, but information as
And
well.
look at Richard Dolan's stuff. He's very academic,
Yeah.
a little stodgy, but it's okay.
Well, again, we're running out of time. You want to give your information so people can contact you?
Oh, sure. They can go on lindapotter.net.
Okay.
That's simple, and send me an email or go on the website, and my email's there, and all the information is there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, let's give a little information about the Paranormal Connection, shall we?
The Paranormal Connection airs the first and third Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Our companion show, Story Connection, airs the second and fourth Thursdays of each month. Each episode repeats the following Friday at 1:30 p.m. and Saturday at 5:30 a.m. Watch these programs online at the same airtimes by going to accesssacramento.org and clicking Watch 17. In the Sacramento region, you can see us on Comcast Channel 17 and on AT&T Channel 99. You can find previously aired shows on the Paranormal Connection YouTube channel. For information on upcoming shows and previous Paranormal Connection guests, go to paranormalconnectiontv.blogspot.com. You can contact us at paranormalconnectiontv@gmail.com. And don't forget, find us on Facebook, become a friend, and become a fan.
Well, Linda, in the few minutes that we have left, is there any other information you'd like to impart to the audience dealing with abductions?
Oh gosh, I think on this subject it's so important to be open to it. There's a statistic that Daryl gave, help me with his last name, Daryl the alien hunter. Anyway, they can look up alien hunter and find him.
Okay.
That Daryl gave, that he believes 1 in 4 people have been abducted. Now that's a very, very, very high number. He has been, his son at 6 years old was being abducted and he stopped it. Go on the internet, check out the information that's there, but look into it. And if anybody says they've had an experience, if they believe in UFOs, and maybe you have a belief system or whatever that tells you it's something else, be open enough to entertain the thought and to listen to yourself inside, because you cannot override what's true, a universal truth.
Right.
You will resonate on some level. But be kind to people who say they've had experiences, even if you don't believe, because it's a real thing to those folks.
Absolutely. And listen to your children.
Ah.
When they're having those night terrors, and they say there's something going on, look into the possibility. It
Yeah.
sounds so far-fetched.
Yeah.
But a lot of it does happen to children.
Yeah, and I think the more knowledge we have, the wiser we're going to be. Now, it may be knowledge about something I'm not that interested in, but it's going to help me to be discerning on the subject. So read a little bit about it. Go to a UFO conference if you're so inclined. It's interesting as all get out. Yeah, there's some whack jobs there. There are whack jobs everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's some people with some very valid information, and I think it's worth it,
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if it doesn't resonate, if it doesn't fit, discount it.
Yep.
It's not for you.
Yep.
But
Yep.
you will find a lot of people talking about a lot of interesting things, and guaranteed, my own personal experience when I walked into one of the lectures, and I did not expect to get the information or
Yes.
have the connection that I had there.
Yes,
And
exactly.
remind me of whose lecture that.
That was a Sacramento lecture. I think that was the UFO con that Anthony Sanchez put on. That might have been the first one.
Contact in the Desert.
That we were, Contact in the Desert were many, many lectures on you. It might have been there.
Guy with long hair. Why can't I remember?
Gilliland.
Gilliland.
James Gilliland.
James Gilliland. Thank you.
Yes.
That was a very interesting lecture, and he actually called in the energies, which I was very skeptical about until I started getting the visuals and the information that I was getting.
Right, exactly. But
Yes.
here's the thing. I think it really pays to do a little bit of research because the calling of them in, it's nice to know who you're letting in your front door.
Right.
And I think it's really good to do some research on who they are and why we would
Yeah.
call them in the first place.
Well, it gives you a start anyway.
Yes, indeed.
Opens the doors, and
Yes.
we can always explore.
Yes.
Okay, well, we're out of time again. So, parting words?
Just get out there and then take a look. Peek into places you might not ordinarily peek.
Okay, sounds good. And again, I'd like to thank my fabulous crew for coming out and volunteering their time to make this show happen. So, and thank you to my guest, Linda Potter, who is amazing. And if you're looking for a past life regression, or you need to know more about UFO abductions, go to lindapotter.net and contact her.
My pleasure.
All righty. Well, thanks so much for joining us tonight, Linda, for this two-part series. And thank you for watching Paranormal Connection. We'll see you next time. Good night.